G'day everybody, welcome back to my channel. This week we're going to try this robot Cyborg Composite in Affinity Photo. This is where we're hoping to end up today, and as usual, let's get started. We'll start off with our model here, and the first thing we want to do is get rid of the background. So we're going to come over here to our flood selection tool and just click once. It should give us a fairly good selection. A few little bits on the shoulders to tidy up, but we'll just use our selection brush tool to tidy that up, and we'll just fix those areas up on the shoulders here. Okay, holding Option down, we'll just click in between the face and the finger here just to get rid of that little section there as well. We'll come up here to our Refine, and on our Refine selection box, I'm going to smooth by 3 and feather by 3 as well. I'll also make my brush a little bit bigger and just run it around the hairline here. Once we're happy with our selection, we can come down to the output box and click on New Layer and click on Apply. Now that's going to give us our model on a separate layer without the white background up the top here. Next thing we want to do is smooth the skin a little bit. We're going to just bring up the picture a little bit bigger with my Command Plus, and you can see these pores in the skin, and we just want to smooth those out a bit. So on our model layer here, we'll just name that model and hit enter, and down to our live adjustments, and I'm going to click on Gaussian blur. We'll bring this Gaussian blur box up here a little bit, and on our radius here, we're just going to come down until we see those little pore marks disappear from her skin, and I'm going to go about 3. That looks pretty good. On the Gaussian blur layer, I am going to invert it with the Command I, and that will bring us back to our normal photo here. But we're going to use our brush, going to make our flow and opacity about 50%, and we're going to make sure we're painting in white. So we'll just come up the top here, and the idea now is just to paint over the skin here and get rid of all those marks that we've got and all those little pore holes that we've got. We can also do the same for the eyebrows, and we can adjust the size of our brush as we come down the face. Make sure you don't go over the eyes, but you want to get under the eyes, and you want to do this to pretty much the whole face and the body. So I'm going to continue to do this, fast forward, and we'll come back once I've finished my smoothing of the face here. Now, I've done that fairly quickly, everybody, but I do urge you to take your time and just get all those little spots on the face there. It does make the final image look a lot better. Next, we're going to click back on the model layer here, and we're going to come down to our adjustments, and we're going to pick vibrance, and we're going to try and make the skin of our model here look more robot-like. So we're going to bring the vibrance all the way down, and we can see we're seeing that effect now and looking a little bit better. I'm going to clip the vibrance layer to the model, still clicking on the model layer here, and I'm going to add a curves layer. And on the curves layer, just down here on this corner here, I'm going to drag that up, and we're going to brighten that picture up and get that skin looking a little bit more robot-like again. Let's clip the adjustment layer to the model layer again, and we're ready to do our cutouts. So we are going to use our pen tool. Don't be scared of the pen tool. I'm going to walk you through everything that you need to do. So let's click on the pen tool here. We're going to come up here to this area here where it says fill and stroke. We're going to make our stroke 4 pixels or 4 points here just by dragging this width up here up to 4. On the pressure down here, what we're going to do, I've already set mine, but if you see, if that is all the way up the top here, you can see the stroke is just one solid line. So what I've done is bring these 2 points down and bring this one down a little bit as well. And we get that nice tapered edge on our stroke, which is a lot better than just one big solid line. Okay, we're ready to draw our pattern. What we're going to do is on each side of the eyebrows here, I'm going to click once on this side. I'm going to come all the way across to the other eyebrow about here, and I'm going to click and hold down my mouse, and I'm just going to pull down, and you can see we're starting to get that pattern. And then I'm going to come across here till the pattern is the way I want it, and that is looking pretty good. So I'm going to release my mouse. I'm going to click on this little circle here so we get rid of that tail. And then I'm going to click in the middle here, click and hold my mouse again, click and drag down, and then drag across. And you can see as you maneuver this little point here, you can move the pattern as well. So we're going to just move it down a little bit just above the eyebrow. Click on this point, get rid of that tail. Come back to where we started. One more click again, holding the mouse down and drag down again. And again, we can just come across and manipulate that to where we want it. Okay, if we do want to change any of these points, we can come across here to the pen tool and come to our node tool. And now we can move these points where we like. We can move them up or down. We can move this one a little bit closer, move it up or down. So if you're not happy with what you've done, you can actually move these points around. Okay, let's come back to the pen tool. Let's come up to the fill mode here, and let's grab this little circle and take it all the way up to black. So we've got fill with black on our pattern. Let's come up here to select and go on this one here, selection from layer, and that should add our selection around that black pattern there. Let's click on our model here, and then on our keyboard, let's click delete. Not really much has happened, but let's come back to our curve up here, down to our layer effects, clicking on bevel and emboss. Make sure that bevel and emboss is highlighted. We've got type pillow and our radius is 5 pixels at the moment. Let's come down here to this fill opacity and take that all the way down to 0. Now we get rid of our marching ants with escape or command D, and you can see that it's now given us the cutout and it's beveled and embossed. So let's call this curves layer head cutout, and let's click on our model. Let's move on to our shoulder now. So let's come back to our pen tool. We're going to do this one a little bit different. Let's just move this up a little bit. Let's make our first click at the bottom of the shoulder here, and then come round to the top of the shoulder here, make our second click, holding down our mouse and dragging out. Okay, let's click on this little dot. Now we can just click around here now. It doesn't really matter too much. On this curves layer, which is our shoulder layer, so we can name that shoulder. Staying on that shoulder layer, we can come down to our layer effects and we can just click on bevel and emboss, and we can close that. We click on our hand tool, we can see what we've done, and we need our stroke to be a little bit thicker down here. So we're going to click on our pen tool, back on our stroke, and I'm just going to click on the pressure here. And I'm going to bring this one up a little bit to about halfway, so we've got that stroke a little bit more prominent there. Okay, we've got our shoulder here. The next thing we're going to do is do our cutout on our shoulder, and for that I'm going to use a shape, and I'm going to use the ellipse tool. I'm going to make sure I'm painting in black, and I'm just going to drag out a oval. Just turn that oval a little bit like that, and then position it in the shoulder here, and we can move it about if we want. And just on our perspective tool here, I'm going to drag this one up a little bit and this one that way. Hit apply, and then just move that over a little bit. Okay, on this oval shape, let's come up to select, selection from layer again, down to our model layer, click on delete on the keyboard, back to our pixel layer, add a layer effect, click on bevel and emboss again, and again down here to our fill opacity, let's drag that all the way down to 0. Let's get rid of our marching ants, escape or command D, and there we go, we've got the cutout for our shoulder done. So now we're ready to bring in our photos, our other photos that are going to make up this composite. The first one I'm going to bring in is the engine here, and I only need a certain part of the engine. So I'm going to use my marquee tool here, my rectangular marquee tool, and I'm going to drag out a selection on this engine here, and that looks pretty good about that size. And Command C to copy that back to our model layer, and we're going to go Command V on our keyboard. Click on our move tool here, and we'll just resize this engine. to the size that we want. And we just want it to cover our pattern. So we're just going to drag that. So we're just going to cover our pattern a bit more on that side. That looks pretty good. So on our engine here, let's name that engine. And the engine here, we're going to drag underneath the model here. So let's drag that down underneath the model, and that should fit that inside of our cutout. While we have this engine layer here highlighted, I'm going to come over here to my brush tool, going to drop my opacity to 30% and my flow to 30% as well. I'm painting in black still on the engine layer, and I'm just going to go around the edges of this engine layer. A little bit round here. I just added that little bit of depth into that cutout. Okay, let's bring our picture in for our shoulder now. So we're going to bring in this picture of a jet engine, and I need the whole jet engine this time. So I'm just going to go Command C, back to our model layer, and Command V. Let's go to our move tool again, and we're just going to drag this down. Going to turn it about that way so it can fit into this area a little bit better, and just make sure it covers that cutout. And again, we're going to grab this background. Let's call this jet fan, and we're going to drag it underneath our model. With the jet engine, I'm going to use my perspective tool, and I'm just going to now manipulate that into place with this perspective tool. Once you've got your fan in place, we can hit apply on the perspective tool. You can see we've got a little bit of an overhang here with our fan, so I'll just go and grab my erase tool and just take care of that. While we're still on our jet engine fan, I'm going to grab my paintbrush again. I've still got my opacity and flow at 30%, and I'm still painting in black, and I'm going to add some depth to this jet engine type fan in the shoulder here, just by going around the shoulder, painting in black. There we go, just added that depth to that fan. Looks a lot better now. So the next thing we're going to do is add our mesh. So we're going to come over here to this picture here. I'm going to grab my rectangular marquee tool again, and then just drag out a section. Command C again, back over to our model, and Command V. Make that a lot smaller, and grab our move tool so we can resize that, and Command plus to bring the picture of that size back up again. On this background copy, let's call this mesh. Let's change the blend mode of the mesh to screen. Let's make a copy of it because I need two copies, one for the shoulder and one for the engine up here. So I'll move this one up here, and let's just move this one down here for now. Let's start on this one and make it a little bit smaller and move it into place. Okay, we've got that looking pretty good. Let's now drag this one above the engine. Go all the way down above the engine. That'll put that in front of the engine but behind the model. Let's do the same for our jet engine on the shoulder here, or fan on the shoulder. Just move this into place. And with this one, we need to drag it down in front of the jet engine or the fan here. So let's drag that one down in front of there. We've got a little bit sticking out on the corner here. We'll grab our erase tool and take care of that straight away. Let's reduce that photo a little bit smaller again. And we've got our fan in place and our engine in place as well. Let's take care of our eyes next, and we're going to use this picture here for our eyes. We're going to grab our selection brush, and I'm just going to make the brush a little bit bigger, about that size, and I'm just going to click once, and that's going to give us a nice selection. Going to go Command C, back to our picture, and Command V. Get our move tool again and resize. Let's make the picture a fair bit bigger now so we can really concentrate right on that eye, and resize this so it just fits right in the eye here. About there looks good. Let's change the blend mode to overlay, and let's make a copy and then put one over on the other eye here as well. Both of these now can have a mask added to them. On the first one here, we're going to click on the mask, grab our paintbrush, bring our flow and opacity back up to 100%, and we're going to make sure that we're painting in black and make our brush a bit smaller. You can zoom in a little bit more, and we're just going to paint away the areas. Looks like this is inside of her eye. Just nice and easy. There we go. Let's come over to the other mask and just do the same again. This eye, Let's zoom out. And there we go, we've got our eyes done as well. Okay, next picture that we're going to bring over is this smartwatch. Again, we're going to use our pen tool, a little bit more practice with the pen tool. So we'll bring it up fairly big, grab our pen tool, starting at the top here, click once here, once on the side here, and drag out and around. Get rid of the tail, click here and drag around, click off to get that tail again, then click here, drag around, then click off, and then very last to finish off, dragging out again, and then we can click on selection up here. It should give us a nice selection. Command C, back to our model, and Command V. Take our move tool and just resize that. We're going to make this really quite small because we're going to put it on her wrist here. You can actually put this wherever you like. Let's come to our perspective tool, and on each of these, let's just drag that one back and that one back as well. Hit apply, move that a little bit more into position. And on the smartwatch layer here, we will again come to our layer effects. And with this one, we'll just click on bevel and emboss. Click off, have a look at that. We'll click on our hand tool, and that looks pretty good. Okay, we're ready to bring in our background now. So we're going to use this background here. And this one is just a quick Command C, back to our model, and Command V. Grab our move tool and resize. And we'll just snap it into place here. Drag it all the way down so it covers the whole picture. And all we have to do now is drag that all the way down to on top of this background layer here, and that'll give us our new background behind our model here. We can do one little thing on this background if we like. We can add a depth of field blur and just take the radius up until you see the background blurring a tiny little bit, and click off that. And as usual guys, one last thing, we'll come across to this picture here, take a little selection with our marquee tool, making sure we get some red and green. Command C, back to our model, Command V, make it really small, nice and small, and I'm going to add that above our engine but below our mesh. Move it, make another copy with Command J, and just move that across. So just a little finishing touch to put some color behind the mesh in front of the engine there to look like something is firing back there. There we go everybody, that's my robot Cyborg Composite in Affinity Photo. I hope you liked the tutorial this week. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. Please consider subscribing to my channel. Until next time, stay well, be safe, and I'll see you in my next video.